I found out I was being erased from my own work at 7:42 a.m., which is a ridiculous time to have your identity professionally rearranged. I know the exact minute because the email notification is still burned into my brain. Subject line, Provisional Patent Filing, Lead Inventor Confirmation. My name wasn't on it. I was halfway through my first coffee in the break room when the message popped up on the internal patent tracker. I almost ignored it. At our company, emails with words like provisional and intellectual property usually mean one of two things: either someone's about to get a bonus, or someone's about to get quietly moved aside. I opened it. Lead inventor, Daniel Reeves. Co-inventor, Priya Khatri. My stomach did that slow, sinking thing, like an elevator that forgot to stop at your floor. The patent description was unmistakable. It was my adaptive compression algorithm. The one I'd spent 14 months building in late nights and missed holidays. The one that had finally stabilized the data transfer bottleneck for our flagship hardware. The one Daniel had told me was interesting but premature. I blinked at the screen. Maybe this was a draft. Maybe my name was in version control metadata. Maybe this was some clerical error. I clicked the attached document. It was final. I felt oddly calm at first. Not angry. Not even shocked. Just hollow. Like someone had pulled the batteries out of me. I walked down the hallway toward Daniel's office. The carpet muffled my steps, which felt unfair. This felt like a moment that deserved dramatic footfalls. Daniel's door was open. Of course it was. He liked to project transparency. He looked up from his monitor and smiled, the kind of smile that's 70% teeth and 30% strategy. "Ethan," he said. "Morning." "Morning," I replied, holding up my tablet. "Quick question. Why am I not listed on the compression patent filing?" He didn't flinch. "I was hoping you'd come by," he said smoothly. "Close the door." There are certain phrases in corporate life that make your pulse pick up. "Close the door" is one of them. I closed it. Daniel leaned back in his chair. The filing reflects contributions at the time of submission. I stared at him. "The algorithm is mine." "You contributed to it," he corrected gently. "But the final implementation included significant architectural revisions." "Which I wrote." Daniel's smile thinned. "Ethan," he said, lowering his voice like we were co-conspirators, "you're talented. No one's disputing that. But patents aren't just about who wrote lines of code. They're about strategic positioning." "Strategic positioning. That's not how inventorship works," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's about substantive contribution." Daniel sighed, as if I were the difficult one. "Look," he said. "Priya integrated your prototype into the broader system. I directed the overall concept. It made sense to structure it this way. It made sense," I repeated, "to remove my name. Don't make this adversarial. That's the thing about people who've already decided the outcome. They treat your reaction like the problem. I worked on that model for over a year. And you'll work on many more," Daniel replied. "This is just one filing. Just one filing." I felt the calm start to crack. "So what's my role here?" I asked. "Support staff." He folded his hands. "Your role is to continue doing good work. Don't let ego get in the way of opportunity." Ego. It's amazing how often ambition gets relabeled when it belongs to someone inconvenient. I left his office without slamming the door, which I consider one of my finer achievements that day. Back at my desk, I stared at the patent tracker again. My heart was racing now. The calm had evaporated, replaced by something sharper. Not rage. Not yet. Something colder. I opened our version control history. Every commit. Every timestamp. Every comment. There it was. Initial Compression Framework, authored by E. Moore. Adaptive Threshold Logic, authored by E. Moore. Error Correction Tuning, authored by E. Moore. Daniel's name appeared in review comments. Priya's in integration commits. The core invention was mine. My phone buzzed. It was Marcus from Hardware. You see the filing, he texted. Yeah. Dude. That's your algorithm. I stared at the blinking cursor in our chat window. I know. He responded almost instantly. You going to fight it? I didn't answer right away. Because fighting it meant escalating. Escalating meant formal review. Formal review meant legal. And legal meant scrutiny. Not just of them. Of me. I opened the employee handbook. Section 8.3, Intellectual Property and Attribution. Any dispute regarding inventorship must be submitted in writing to the IP Review Committee within 30 days of filing. 30 days. I checked the timestamp. Filed yesterday. 29 days left. The escalation form was 3 pages long. I'd filled out forms like that before, when vendors disputed credit, when cross-functional teams argued over design ownership. I'd always been neutral. Now I wasn't. Around noon, Priya appeared at my cubicle. She didn't sit down. Just leaned lightly against the partition. You talked to Daniel? She asked. Yeah. Her eyes flicked to my screen. I didn't realize you weren't listed, she said. You integrated it, I replied. Did you think the base algorithm just appeared? She winced. I assumed it would get sorted later. Later? I asked. After the filing? She didn't answer. I didn't push for it, she added quietly. But you didn't push back either. That landed between us heavier than I expected. Priya sighed. You know how this works. Leadership visibility matters. There it was again. The subtext. This isn't about credit. It's about alignment. I looked at her. So what do you think I should do? She hesitated. If you escalate, she said carefully, you'll win on paper. The logs are clear. But Daniel's VP review is next quarter. And he'll remember. Of course he would. The afternoon dragged. Every Slack notification felt louder than usual. Every hallway conversation sounded suspiciously like it might involve my name. By 4 p.m., I had the escalation form open. Complainant, Ethan Moore. Subject, Inventorship Dispute, Adaptive Compression Algorithm. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. What was I really fighting for? Money? Maybe. Recognition? Definitely. But also precedent. If this stands, then I become the kind of engineer whose work is strategically positioned away. I started typing. Description of contribution. I authored the original adaptive compression framework and implemented all core logic related to threshold modulation, error correction, and dynamic packet sizing. Attached are version control logs and documented design notes demonstrating sole authorship of the underlying invention. The words looked clinical. Detached. But my chest was tight. Before I could overthink it, I hit submit. There's a strange stillness after you do something irreversible. Like the second after you jump off a diving board. At 5:12 p.m., Daniel messaged me. Got your submission. No greeting. Yeah. We stared at the typing indicator. It appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. Finally. This will complicate things. I didn't complicate them. He didn't respond. The next week felt like a quiet storm. HR scheduled interviews. Legal requested documentation. The IP Review Committee asked for written statements. I provided everything. Daniel argued that the invention was a team-derived evolution. Priya submitted a neutral summary. Marcus volunteered a supporting statement, which surprised me more than I expected. On the 10th day, I was called into a conference room. 3 committee members. 1 HR rep, a speakerphone for legal. Mr. Moore, the chair began, we've reviewed the documentation. I kept my hands folded in my lap so they wouldn't see them shake. The version control history indicates that you are the sole author of the core inventive claims. I exhaled slowly. Therefore, she continued, we will amend the provisional filing to include you as lead inventor. The room felt suddenly brighter. But she wasn't done. However, we must also emphasize that collaborative culture is critical to our innovation strategy. We encourage open communication moving forward. Translation, you were right. But don't make a habit of it. I nodded. Understood. When I left the room, my phone buzzed again. Daniel. Congratulations, he wrote. Hope it was worth it. I stared at that message for a long time. Because that was the real question, wasn't it? That evening, as I packed up to leave, Priya stopped by. They amended it, she said. Yeah. She looked at me carefully. You okay? I thought about it. I don't know yet. She nodded. For what it's worth, she said, you were right. I watched her walk away. Over the next few weeks, things shifted subtly. Daniel stopped looping me into certain strategic meetings. I noticed fewer casual check-ins. More formal communication. But something else changed too. Engineers from other teams started asking me about my work directly. My name was on the filing now. My credibility was documented. Marcus clapped me on the back one afternoon. Told you to fight it. I smiled faintly. Yeah. The VP review cycle came and went. Daniel got his promotion. I didn't. But I got something else. An email from the new Advanced Systems Group. Subject, Lead Architect Opening, Patent Portfolio Review. They'd seen my filing. They were building a new division around adaptive infrastructure models. They wanted to talk. I stared at the email, feeling that familiar elevator drop sensation again. Only this time, it wasn't hollow. It was possibility. When I told Daniel I was considering the offer, he raised an eyebrow. Moving on so soon, he asked. I'm aligning strategically, I replied. He didn't smile. On my last day in that department, I walked past the patent tracker one more time. Lead inventor, Ethan Moore. The patent that wasn't mine. Until it was. And maybe that's the thing about credit. Sometimes you have to claim it before anyone else remembers it was yours.